Fox 2 presents Hancock and Kelley.
Good Sunday morning to you, and welcome to Hancock and Kelley on Fox 2, where we take on the top issues of the week. On the right is John Hancock.
Jr.
A different John Hancock. John Hancock Jr. from the Bulldog Newsletter. Thanks for coming in.
Happy to be here, Andy.
Filling in for Dad, right?
Absolutely.
On the left, Michael Kelley.
Hey. Happy Sunday.
I'm Andy Banker. On the agenda this morning, the stark contrast among St. Louis Board of Aldermen President Megan Green, St. Louis Congresswoman Cori Bush, and New York Mayor Eric Adams on the issue of pro-Palestinian protests. Fredbird drops off signatures to put an issue on the Missouri ballot. An exclusive new poll from Emerson College in the Hill gives former President Donald Trump a clean sweep over President Biden in 7 swing states. And our quote of the week is from the latest inductee into the Hall of Famous Missourians at the state capitol, not a politician, but a basketball coach known as Stormin' Norman. Also, former President Trump pays a price for violating a gag order, and Illinois Democrats propose a law, pass it, and have the governor sign it in less than a day. Is it all to help a St. Louis area Democrat win re-election? But we begin with protesters vandalizing and setting up camps across college campuses in America. St. Louis Aldermanic President Megan Green spent much of the week ripping Washington University in St. Louis for stamping out a temp camp protest here.
This rally was asking Washington University to divest from the military-industrial complex that is funding the genocide in Gaza, and we cannot lose sight of that.
Green was among the protesters last weekend. Protesters claimed to be rallying behind Palestinians suffering in Gaza under Israel's military response to the October 7th terror attack from Hamas. But Hamas is still holding more than 130 hostages taken from Israel that day, including Americans. Hamas terrorists continue to hide in Gaza with those hostages. Michael, Green and Democrats continue to repeat the claim of genocide in Gaza, as if that is accepted fact by everyone. She also says WashU unjustly ran off peaceful protesters. Is Israel really conducting genocide in Gaza, and was WashU too heavy-handed?
I think Megan Green ran for the wrong office. She's supposed to be the president of the Board of Aldermen. She's out protesting, leading organized things, put her own personal job in jeopardy at Washington University to protest what's going on in Gaza and the atrocities that exist there and the death and killing. She's the president of the Board of Aldermen. There's a place where she can have an impact on death and killing. And I've not seen this much of Megan Green. It's unbelievable. And the antisemitism that's running through these protests is unbelievable. And why an elected official would want to be associated with that's beyond me. And does Megan Green not know who the second largest employer in the state of Missouri is? It'd be Boeing, right here in St. Louis. Many of her constituents' lives and jobs come from that. Boeing's invested in Washington University. They've helped grow and make this community great, and it's not just weapons of war that they make. So I'm confused as to what Megan Green wants to be, and if she wants to stand for St. Louis or if she wants to run for a higher office. I wish she'd get to it.
Same questions for you.
Yeah.
Is there a genocide, and was WashU too heavy-handed? There were protests at St. Louis U too. Not quite as eventful, I guess you could say.
So, Andy, I'm glad you mentioned the hostages that Hamas still has in their control. These protesters are not saying anything about those hostages or anything else with Hamas, who's using the people of Gaza as a shield for these Israeli attacks. And Michael hit it head on. Are you going to be an elected official, or are you going to be an activist? I mean, these protests are causing damage throughout the country. You look at the violence at UCLA. We saw WashU, what happened, 100 people arrested, 25 people only associated with the university, the vast majority no ties to WashU. These are professional protesters coming in. You go back to Occupy Wall Street, there's a group, a subsection, no matter the cause, they're coming out to stir up trouble and cause dissension.
The police are clearing out a tent camp at University of Southern California as we speak. And St. Louis Congresswoman Cori Bush is making allegations of police brutality as more and more universities like USC take action to end tent camp protests across the United States. She says the recent wave of police violence, student suspensions, and arrests is intended to suppress dissent by all those who dare speak out for Palestinian human rights. Now, contrast her view with that of fellow Democrat New York Mayor Eric Adams. Adams took a stand with police as they removed a tent camp protest at Columbia University in the past week. Protesters had actually taken over a building on campus and replaced the American flag with the Palestinian flag.
My uncle died defending this country, and these men and women put their lives on the line. And it's despicable that schools will allow another country flag to fly in our country. So blame me for being proud to be an American. And I thank Commissioner Daughtry for putting that flag back up. We're not surrendering our way of life to anyone.
One of the student protest leaders at Columbia has repeatedly stated Zionist Jews have no right to live. Mayor Adams says agents of terror are actually infiltrating these protests and training students. One of Congresswoman Bush's more prominent supporters, as part of the protests in St. Louis in recent days, has said in the past that he wanted to set Israel on fire and watch Israelis burn. He has since disavowed those anti-Semitic comments of his past. Michael, where's President Biden in all of this? Is he with Mayor Adams or is he with Cori Bush, AOC, Rashida Tlaib?
This is not only what's going on between the Israeli-Gaza conflict, this diverse thought opinion we're seeing. It's also what the Democratic Party is dealing with across the board. This progressive thought process led by a Cori Bush or Mayor Adams, who ran on law and order and let's get back to doing the jobs of basic government. As it relates to President Biden, I think he's exactly where the American people are. He's had 50 years of record where he has said he is a strong ally of Israel and continues to show it. At the same time, over the last month, he said, hey, the death and destruction that's going on in Gaza is too much. It needs to be dealt, and we need to recalibrate. And his public policy experts are starting to make some changes, getting Israel to listen to us, and we're starting to make some change. I think that's where the president has to be, standing by your principles, standing for what we as Americans would like to see happen, but at the same time, trying to find some way to bring peace to our world.
My question is, when it comes to these protests, should President Biden sound a little bit more like Mayor Eric Adams?
Absolutely, and I have to give credit to Mayor Adams. He was spot on with his message. We have to defend the flag. He mentioned his uncle who died for this country. And when you desecrate the flag, you're putting, you're taking advantage of all those lives who have been lost serving this country. And Joe Biden is trying to play in the middle. He's trying to have it both ways here. He's trying to appease the far left while also trying to continue to defend Israel and say he's for peaceful protesting. But these protests have been anything but peaceful. And I think Joe Biden is doing a disservice to the country and honestly to his electoral chances by not striking a tone more similar to Eric Adams.
Signatures are pouring into Jefferson City in an effort to give Missouri voters a say on a lot more than just the next president and governor. That includes sports betting. Mascots from the Cardinals, the Blues, and Kansas City Royals helped wheel in boxes of signatures to legalize sports betting. It just cracks me up.
Right?
There's Louie and Fredbird bringing in the signatures. Oh. There's also a measure to boost the state's minimum wage to $15 an hour over the next couple of years. That will likely hit the ballot. Same goes for a referendum on reinstating abortion rights. They have more than enough signatures to put that on the ballot. John, is this the way it's supposed to work, and which of these is most likely to pass?
Yeah, so it is the direct democracy that I know some on the Republican side are having an issue with right now, but this is the way the Constitution exists today, and that's the way it is. Of these, I think sports betting is probably the most likely to pass. That's an income generator for the state. We don't have it, unlike our neighbors in Kansas and Illinois. I think that's by far the most likely of these to pass.
What do you think? And how do these impact the other votes? Well, you know what I mean? Abortion could really play a big role in who gets elected and wins in some of the other races.
Missourians have elected a very conservative group of folks to go to Jefferson City, and some of us even believe it to be extremist with their policies. And as a result, you're having to see citizens go to the ballot to get simple things that are being passed in other places. Raises in the minimum wage, legalization of marijuana, now the sports betting, paid sick days. So many things are going to the ballot to push back at this extremism. Is this how it should work? Probably not, but this is how it's going to work in a state that has this extreme thought process. All three of them will pass. All three of them help Democrats.
Claims of dirty pool as Democrats in Illinois, lawmakers at the Illinois legislature, and Governor J.B. Pritzker sneak through an election law in less than 24 hours to protect one of their own. Republicans think they can oust Democrat State Rep. Katie Stewart of Edwardsville. But no one signed up to run against her, so the Republican Party was going to appoint a candidate to run. The Democrat supermajority rushed a bill through the entire legislative process in a matter of hours to ban parties from appointing candidates, but only in races for the state legislature. Stewart's ally, Democrat Jay Hoffman of St. Clair County, helped orchestrate the move. Michael, is this how things are supposed to be done?
Well, to the victor goes the spoils. It's probably not the way that you want it to operate most of the time, but they're under a time constraint. We got an election happening here in November, Andy. I don't blame them for wanting to get it done. And if you're the Democrats, that's what this is all about. Trust me, I'm on the receiving end of it in my state.
We're in the middle of an election, and they changed the rules at the 11th hour. 4 Democrats did vote against this in Illinois, and they said it was because it's a blatant misuse of justice, changing the rules when we're this late in the game of the election. It was pure an act of self-preservation by the Democrats, and the machine over there is still well-oiled and running smoothly.
To do it in less than a day. That's kind of old school.
Yeah. Government never works that quick.
Land of Lincoln. Up next, Hancock and Kelley. On Hancock and Kelley, I should say. Donald Trump pays the price for violating a gag order, but he's also soaring in polls.